So yesterday was a very interesting day with the royal fandom, and as you know, Princess Eugenie announced her third pregnancy, and baby Brooksbank is due in the summer. And August and Ernest, their two boys, are very excited, and King Charles is delighted. And the official royal family social media account shared the announcement, and Eugenie is referred to as HRH Princess Eugenie in the palace statement. So again, I just want to offer my congratulations once again to Eugenie and Jack. Genuinely, without any reservation, huge congrats to you. This is what else has happened. Anyway, the supporters of the other girl and the other brother are furious. They are weeping, they are mourning, they are wailing, they are throwing up, sliding down the walls, and heaving and hyperventilating. Why is that, you might ask? They are pointing out that King Charles did not publicly wish the other brother or the other girl's children happy birthday on the royal family social media account. He did not publicly acknowledge the other brother and the other girl's 15th wedding anniversary on the official page. And yet, that same official page was used to announce the pregnancy of Eugenie, who is not a working royal. Yes! I love it. I've always said, and many of us who are observant, and we've always noticed, that way before Harry and Meghan left, the other brother and the other girl were beefing the king and the queen consort. You see, the family dynamics has always been one of dysfunction. I don't think there's anybody in that family that genuinely like each other. I really don't. I really don't. And that's because when you grow up in a fishbowl where you've got to throw one person under the bus to puff up the other person, there's going to be feelings. There's going to be, I don't know what those feelings are. I can only speculate. But I can imagine it's not easy when you are the one being thrown under the bus. And like Harry said in his book Spare, his father told him that I went through it. I suffered the press. You therefore must suffer the press. And Harry was like, but surely the whole point is to make sure that your children do not suffer the same fate that you do. So again, when these, I want to call them derangers, but when fans of the other brother and the other girl are unhappy, well, what can I say? Because they are now asking why the royal family page is being used for non-working royals, right? So why is a non-working royal's pregnancy being announced on that page when it apparently cannot be used to wish the working royal's children a happy birthday? And I think what's happened is that these derangers and trolls, they've made a very important discovery. Shall I tell them, or do you want to tell them? At the end of the day, the working royal and non-working royal distinction has never been a consistent constitutional principle. It's not legal, for a start. It's something that was made up to exclude the biracial princess, because it was a selective deployment of language that was used specifically in the context of Harry and Meghan to justify the removal of their security, the eviction from their Frogmore cottage, and stripping them of patronages and the sustained institutional briefing campaign against them. So because Harry and Meghan are non-working royals, they're not entitled to this, they're not entitled to that, they are not blah blah blah, and they are not blah blah blah. That's what we got all day. And all of a sudden, at the whim of the king and at the approval of his men in grey suits, they can do Eugenie's pregnancy announcement. I love when chickens are when they come home to roost. I love it. Chickens roosting. Love it. I love it. We told you thusly, we told you so, and you wouldn't believe us. And now you are very upset because it's turning on you. Anyway, as you know, Eugenie is not a working royal, but she does carry out duties on behalf of the crown. She has a private career. She is the daughter of Prince Andrew, who himself has been stripped. Again, I'm not going to go into a rant about that, but he has not been stripped. But let's say for the purposes of this video, he has been stripped of his royal titles and he is under active criminal investigation. And the official royal family page announced Eugenie's pregnancy with the king confirming that he is delighted and her HRH styling remains intact. Now, where were the palace sources explaining that the announcement should not appear on the royal page because Eugenie is not a working royal? Where were they? Where were the briefings about the blurring of the lines between official and private? Where were the columns about the complications of using institutional platforms for non-institutional purposes? Where were they? Nowhere to be found. Remember, Neil Basu, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, he said something profound, and many of you don't get it. He said, if the king want Harry and Meghan to have protection, they would have protection, just like that. These people know exactly what they're doing. They favor who they favor and they disfavor who they disfavor. And at the end of the day, Harry and Meghan are being used as scapegoats to sanitize the lazies and the useless other members of that family. That's what they're doing. And yet, when it comes to Eugenie, the working non-royal, working non-royal, whatever, the distinction is not a principle. It was a tool. And it was applied selectively. And it was applied specifically to one couple, Harry and Meghan. If somebody like Andrew Parker Bowles can carry out duties on behalf of the crown, why couldn't they let Harry and Meghan carry out duties on behalf of the crown? Now, we know that the other brother, their fan community, have now encountered the consequence of sharing that selective application. So when the tool was being used against Harry and Meghan, it was yay! They were cheering, they were happy, they were showing their derrieres up and down in comment sections. Yeah, they've been excluded. Yeah, strip the titles. And now, and now they're upset. They supported the removal of Harry and Meghan's status on grounds that the working royal distinction mattered. They are now discovering that that distinction does not apply to Eugenie's pregnancy announcement. And the further question that they should be asking, but appear not to have noticed, is the birthday one. When did the king ever wish Archie a happy birthday on the royal official page? When did the king ever wish Lilibet a happy birthday on the official royal family page? Archie is turning 7 tomorrow. Yes, Archie is turning 7 tomorrow. Lilibet is going to be 5 in June. And the official royal family page has never once publicly acknowledged the birthday of both of them. And yet, they can apply what they want to selectively to who they favor. Let that make sense. But derangers, you can stew and enjoy the cup of consequences. You know why? Because it is filled with your tears. But anyway, my name's Elizabeth. I'm the author of The Luxpreneur. Please let me know what you think.
The announcement of Princess Eugenie's third pregnancy through the official royal family social media account has exposed a glaring inconsistency in how palace protocol is selectively enforced. A double standard that reveals the true nature of institutional decisions, previously justified through the language of constitutional principle. When Charles failed to publicly acknowledge Prince Louis or Princess Charlotte's birthdays on the official royal page, or when William and Kate's 15th wedding anniversary passed without institutional recognition on that same platform, palace sources were notably silent about these omissions. Yet when Eugenie, a non-working royal with a private career and daughter of a prince stripped of his titles and facing criminal investigation, announced her pregnancy, the official page sprang into action. The king's delight was confirmed, and her HRH styling remained fully intact. This contradiction demands an uncomfortable question. Where were the briefings about the blurring of lines between official and private? The columns about the complications of using institutional platforms for non-institutional purposes? The palace sources explaining that such announcements should not appear on the royal page? The answer reveals that the working royal distinction, which was deployed so consistently and forcefully to justify the removal of Harry and Meghan's security, their eviction from Frogmore Cottage and the stripping of their patronages, was never actually a constitutional principle at all. It was a tool applied selectively and specifically to one couple, while other family members operate in a fluid, half-in, half-out arrangement that the institution navigates with apparent ease. The supporters who cheered this selective application now discover that the distinction does not protect them, does not apply to Eugenie's pregnancy, and never truly applied to any principle beyond serving as justification for institutional choices made against a single family. The third pregnancy and the pattern beneath. Princess Eugenie announced her third pregnancy with the full backing of the official royal family social media account, a move that carried particular weight given the institution's careful deployment of such platforms. King Charles publicly expressed his delight at the news, his sentiment shared through the palace statement itself. Notably, Eugenie retained her HRH styling in the announcement. She remained HRH Princess Eugenie, her title intact and undiminished. Meanwhile, her two sons, August and Ernest, were reported to be excited about becoming older brothers to the baby due in summer 2026. The announcement was straightforward, celebratory, and institutional in its reach and tone. Yet this moment of joy would soon become the focal point of a much larger conversation about consistency, principle, and the selective application of rules within the royal family itself. The Wales supporters' discovery. The Wales fan community has made a striking observation that cuts to the heart of how the royal family manages its official communications. They have noted that King Charles did not publicly acknowledge Prince Louis or Princess Charlotte's birthdays on the official royal family social media channels, nor did he mark William and Kate's 15th wedding anniversary on the palace's official page. Yet when Princess Eugenie, who does not carry out royal duties and maintains a private career, Announced her third pregnancy, the royal family's official account was promptly deployed to share the news, complete with confirmation that the king was delighted and her HRH styling fully intact. The supporters have begun to ask a pointed question. Why is the official royal family page deemed appropriate for announcing a non-working royal's pregnancy when it apparently cannot be used to wish the working royal's children a happy birthday or to commemorate significant milestones in the Wales family? This discrepancy has exposed what many are now recognising as a troubling inconsistency in how the institution applies its own stated principles about what constitutes appropriate use of its official platforms and whom those platforms are meant to serve. The working royal distinction exposed as selective tool. The working royal versus non-working royal distinction was never a consistent constitutional principle. It was a selective deployment of language used specifically in the context of Harry and Meghan to justify the removal of their security, their eviction from Frogmore Cottage, and the stripping of their patronages through sustained institutional briefing campaigns. Yet when Eugenie, who is not a working royal and does not carry out duties on behalf of the Crown, announced her pregnancy on the official royal family page, with the king confirmed as delighted and her HRH styling intact, there were no palace sources explaining that the announcement should not appear on the royal page. No briefings about the blurring of lines between official and private. No columns about the complications of using institutional platforms for non-institutional purposes. Where were those voices? They were nowhere, because the working royal, non-working royal distinction was never a principle at all. It was a tool applied selectively to a specific couple. The Wales fan community, having cheered this selective application without examining its internal logic, has now encountered its consequence. They supported the removal of Harry and Meghan's status on grounds that the working royal distinction mattered, only to discover that the distinction does not apply to Eugenie's pregnancy announcement, that it never applied consistently, and that the institution told Harry there could be no half-in half-out while running a half-in half-out arrangement for Eugenie, without apparent difficulty. The derangers have just discovered what it was always for, and it was never for them. The inconsistent application of royal status. Eugenie's position within the royal family reveals a fundamental contradiction in how the institution applies its own standards. She does not carry out crown duties and maintains a private career, yet the official royal family social media account announced her third pregnancy with her HRH styling intact, and King Charles himself noted as delighted. This stands in stark contrast to the rigorous distinction the palace has drawn elsewhere. The very distinction it has weaponized to justify the removal of security, eviction from residences, and stripping of patronages for other members of the family. Eugenie is the daughter of Prince Andrew, who has himself been stripped of his royal titles and remains under criminal investigation. Yet her pregnancy announcement proceeded without the institutional briefing campaigns or columns questioning the blurring of lines between official and private spheres. Where were the palace sources explaining that the announcement should not appear on the royal page because she is not a working royal? Where were the carefully planted stories about the complications of using institutional platforms for non-institutional purposes? The silence is deafening, because the working royal distinction was never a constitutional principle applied with consistency. It was always a tool deployed selectively and strategically against a specific couple while remaining conveniently flexible for others. The missing palace briefings. The silence from palace sources has been deafening. Where were the explanations for why Eugenie's pregnancy announcement should not have appeared on the official royal page if the working royal distinction truly matters? Where were the carefully orchestrated briefings warning about the dangerous blurring of official and private lines when institutional platforms were deployed for personal announcements? Where were the opinion columns questioning the appropriateness of using royal social media channels for non-institutional purposes, the kind of scrutiny that was so readily available when other circumstances required it? The absence of these narratives is not an oversight. It is a revelation. The palace machinery that operated with such precision in other contexts, that generated briefing upon briefing, column upon column, has simply gone dormant. This selective silence speaks volumes about what the working royal distinction was ever actually designed to do, and more importantly, who it was designed to target. The stark absence of acknowledgement for Harry's children. The silence is deafening when it comes to Archie and Lilibet's milestones. Archie's 7th birthday arrives on Tuesday with no official recognition from the palace, no statement from the royal family's social media accounts, no acknowledgement whatsoever from the institution that has so carefully defined and redefined what constitutes appropriate royal recognition. Lilibet, meanwhile, turned 4 last June, a full year ago, and that milestone too passed without a single public word from the king or the official royal family page. The contrast is impossible to ignore. While Eugenie's pregnancy announcement was carefully crafted into palace statements and shared across official channels, while her HRH styling remained pristine, and her news was deemed sufficiently royal for institutional broadcast, Harry's children have received nothing. Not a birthday wish. Not a line acknowledging their existence in relation to the crown. The official royal family page, apparently so carefully guarded in its institutional purpose, has somehow found space to celebrate Eugenie, but has drawn a firm, unspoken line at Archie and Lilibet. It is a study in selective application, a public demonstration that the standards invoked as constitutional principle shift dramatically depending on which family member is being discussed. 2 children of the king's son, 2 birthdays, 2 years of institutional silence. The selective tool revealed. The working royal distinction was never a principle at all. It was always a tool, deliberately deployed and carefully concealed. For years, Wales supporters cheered its application to Harry and Meghan without pausing to examine its logic, without questioning why this particular distinction seemed to matter so intensely in their case and theirs alone. They celebrated the removal of security, applauded the eviction from Frogmore Cottage, and nodded along as patronages were stripped away, all justified by this supposedly immutable rule about who qualifies as a working royal and who does not. But the institution has now made visible what was always true beneath the surface. The distinction was never meant to protect them, was never meant to create clarity, and was never meant to be applied consistently. It was designed with surgical precision for one purpose only, to dismantle the position of one couple. And now that same institution is using the official royal family page to announce Eugenie's pregnancy with her HRH styling intact, with the king confirmed as delighted, without a single palace source questioning whether a non-working royal's announcement belongs there at all. The absence of briefings about blurred lines, the silence about institutional platforms being used for private purposes, speaks louder than any statement could. The Wales fan community has discovered too late that they were cheering for a weapon they did not understand, one that was never pointed in their direction and never would be.